Today, you are about to experience a life where the world decides your face is your destiny and spends decades refusing to see your mind. You were born in Vienna in 1914 into a comfortable Jewish family. The city is a crossroad of empire and art, music and machinery. You are given the name Hedwig Kiesler. From the beginning, you are more than one thing. You are intelligent, curious about how things work, and drawn to performance. Your father walks with you through the streets and explains how a streetcar moves. Your mother fills the house with music and manners. You learn early that a question can be more interesting than an answer. Vienna between wars is elegant and uncertain. You are a child with dark hair, wide-set eyes, and a hunger to know how things work. You perform for guests, invent small theatrical scenes, then disappear into your father's explanations of engines, gears, and the flow of electricity. The world begins to notice your face before it notices anything else. You enter European film while still young. The camera loves you, and the industry says that is enough. Your beauty brings attention quickly. At first, attention feels like opportunity. Then attention becomes a kind of cage. Directors frame your face. Producers sell your stillness. They rarely ask what you think. You are looked at constantly, but you are not listened to. You have two choices: accept the role other people have designed for you, or keep a private inner life that refuses to be defined by it. You choose to keep a private inner life. You continue reading, sketching, asking how a camera shutter or a chemical bath works. And that choice changes what the world thinks it knows about you. You become a performer who is also, secretly, an apprentice to machines. This decision does not make you safer. It makes you harder to read. In an industry that wants a face, a mind is an inconvenience. You learn to present one version of yourself to the lights and keep another version to yourself. The gap between those two versions will follow you for decades. Then Friedrich Mandel enters your life. That he is a wealthy Austrian arms manufacturer, older, connected, used to control. The marriage offers you a castle of certainty, dresses, houses, power, protection. But there is a cost. You are not invited to be a partner. You are invited to be an ornament. You have two choices: accept the protection of a wealthy and controlling marriage, or refuse it and face a film world that has already begun to reduce you. You choose to marry. And that choice changes the shape of your days. You are no longer a young actress. You are a hostess, a collector's prize, a woman watched by servants and associates. Inside that world, Europe grows louder with danger. Mandel's meetings are filled with men who discuss weapons, aircraft, torpedoes, and radio control. You are expected to be silent, but you listen. You absorb the vocabulary of armament and communication. You understand that information can be intercepted, that a signal can be jammed, that a machine is only as reliable as its ability to speak without being overheard. Here is another choice. You have two choices: become a silent ornament in his gilded rooms, or use every dinner and every technical discussion as a private classroom. You choose the classroom. That choice changes you. You do not become an arms dealer. You become a person who understands that war is not only fought with steel, it is fought with signals. As Europe moves toward war, the luxury around you begins to feel like a cage with better curtains. You see what is coming. You know that your Jewish family is in danger, that Austria is being swallowed, that your husband's circles are close to powers you cannot trust. You have two choices: remain protected inside a wealthy but controlled life, or leave certainty behind and enter an unknown future. You choose to leave, and that choice costs you the comfort you have known. Later accounts differ on the details of how you crossed borders and boarded ships. What is certain is the leaving. You step away from the castle, from the marriage, from the expectation that you will stay. You reach the United States and enter Hollywood. A studio executive gives you a new name, one designed for marquees. The old world is behind you. The new world gives you a contract, a public image, and a place in the most glamorous machinery on earth. The premieres are bright. Studio contracts bind your time. Lighting technicians spend hours finding the precise angle that makes you luminous. Costume designers cut fabric to hold the eye. The public is fascinated. You become one of the most famous faces of Hollywood's golden age. But there is a loneliness in being marketed as an image. You stand at the center of a crowded premiere and understand that the crowd is looking at a reflection, not at you. Between takes, you are alone with your thoughts. You still take things apart. You still ask how systems work. The world rarely asks. This is a decision. You have two choices: protect the successful actress persona, or risk being dismissed by revealing how seriously you think about science, machines, and war. You choose to reveal it slowly, in private first. And that choice changes the distance between the woman in the light and the woman in the laboratory. The gap widens. You can be admired for your face and ignored for your mind in the same hour. You learn that glamour is a strange currency. It opens many doors, but it makes people assume you came only to be photographed. Then the Second World War begins for the United States. You decide that being admired is not enough. You want to help the Allied war effort. You join the machinery of war bonds and troop entertainment, because that is what stars are asked to do. But you also begin to think about a specific problem. A radio-controlled torpedo can be jammed if its frequency is discovered. In 1940, you meet George Antheil. He is an experimental composer, a man who thinks in rhythm and sequence. You are a movie star who thinks in systems and signals. The partnership looks unlikely from the outside. But the two of you share a recognition. Timing can be the difference between being heard and being intercepted. You talk about frequency, that if a transmitter and receiver jump together from one frequency to another, a signal becomes harder to follow. If the pattern of jumping is known only to the sender and receiver, an enemy cannot easily jam or detect the communication. George brings the image of player piano rolls, synchronized code. You bring the problem of torpedoes and radio control. You have two choices. Dismiss this collaboration because you are not an engineer and he is not a military man, or form an unlikely partnership and develop the idea. You choose to work together. And that choice changes what the world thinks it knows about you, even if the world does not yet know. You give time to the invention. You work after studio hours. Through the pressure of contracts and public appearances, IT is not a hobby. It is a serious attempt to solve a wartime problem. You have another choice. You have two choices. Use your public image only to entertain and sell war bonds, or invest time and reputation in an invention that powerful people may not take seriously because it comes from an actress. You choose the invention, and that choice places your mind directly against the era's most comfortable assumption, that a beautiful woman cannot also be a serious inventor. In 1941, you and George Antheil file for a patent. The filing describes what you call a secret communication system. In 1942, U.S. patent number 2,292,387 is issued under the legal name Hedy-Kiesler-Markey. The technique is not magic. It is a synchronization system in which radio communication hops across frequencies according to a shared pattern. The military does not use the original system during the Second World War. You do not profit from it during your lifetime. The invention sits in a file while the war continues. This is one of the sharpest reversals of your life. The public sees a glamorous actress. The serious technical idea receives little recognition at the time. You have two choices: retreat into the safety of the star image and never mention the invention again, or keep the private knowledge that you tried to solve a problem larger than your own fame. You choose to keep that knowledge. And that choice does not change how the world treats you, but it changes how you carry yourself through the years. The public narrative continues. Premieres, magazine covers, studio lighting. You are among the most admired women on earth, and yet the thing you most want people to see is invisible. You are looked at constantly. You are listened to rarely. Hollywood changes. The studio system tightens and then fractures. The roles grow fewer or more complicated. Career pressure rises. Personal isolation settles in. Fame does not protect you from time. The difference between public fame and being truly understood becomes a wide, quiet corridor. You have two choices: become bitter about the mismatch between your image and your mind, or continue to think, build, and observe even when no one asks. You choose to keep thinking, and that choice does not erase the loneliness, but it gives it a shape you can endure. You live through decades in which the name on the marquee remains luminous while the woman behind it becomes a footnote. Your beauty is remembered. Your technical work is not. You watch other minds take credit for the digital century that will later grow from secure communications, and you remain patient in a way that is almost unbearable. The later years are not a tabloid story. They are quieter, smaller, marked by the gap between what the public believes it knows and what you actually carried. You are not broken by the gap, but you are tired of it. You do not stop thinking. Then recognition arrives late. In 1997, the Electronic Frontier Foundation acknowledges your contribution to the history of communications. You are still alive to hear it, though the world has spent most of your life not listening. The acknowledgement is not a victory over time, but it is a signal finally received. More recognition follows after your death. In 2014, you are inducted posthumously into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. The frequency hopping technique you helped develop is now recognized as an important development in the history of secure wireless communications. It is not that you invented Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, or all modern wireless technology. It is that you saw a problem, shaped an idea, and filed it into a world that was not ready to see you as both. Now the ending returns to the opening theme. You have lived a life in which the world decided your face was your destiny and spent decades refusing to see your mind. You have been framed, admired, ignored, controlled, escaped, renamed, marketed, underestimated, and finally recognized. The cost of being looked at but not listened to has been real. The choice to keep thinking anyway has been the only answer you could give. Congratulations, you have lived the life of Hedy Lamarr. Today, you are about to experience a life where the world applauds your body, doubts your mind, and never imagines that a dancer could become a weapon against fascism. You were born in St. Louis, Missouri, in 1906, into a world that has already decided what a girl like you can become. You are named Frida Josephine McDonald, though no one around you has time to treat your arrival as remarkable. Your mother takes in laundry. Your father is a face you will barely remember. The home on Gresham Street is small, crowded, and cold in winter. You learn early that hunger is a sound your stomach makes in the dark, and that love often arrives as exhaustion at the end of a workday. Your mother's hands are raw from soap and water, her patience worn thin by too many mouths and too little money. You learn to make yourself useful before you learn to read. You run errands through brick alleys. You carry bundles of clothes that weigh almost as much as you do. You are small, quick, and watchful. You notice everything. St. Louis is a city of sharp lines. You are not allowed to sit where white children sit. You are not allowed to drink from the same fountains. You are not allowed to imagine the same futures, but you imagine them anyway. In the yard, in the street, in the dim light of a kitchen, you move. You spin until your skirt lifts. You make faces that startle the other children into laughter. You discover that your body can change the temperature of a room. When people watch you, their ordinary misery softens. For a few seconds, you are not a poor black girl in a segregated city. You are motion, noise, life. This is your first secret. Attention can feel like safety. You also learn that attention can vanish. Sometimes you go to school with bruises you cannot explain. Sometimes there is no food. Sometimes your mother looks at you as though you are one more burden she cannot carry. You stop waiting for the world to be gentle. You decide early that if the world will give you nothing, you will dance until it pays attention. In 1917, when you are 11 years old, fear changes shape. The East St. Louis race massacre erupts just across the river. You do not see the worst of it with your own eyes, but the city trembles. You hear grown-ups lower their voices. You hear words like riot, burning, railway, river. Some say people ran toward the water because the water was the only escape. Some say the water swallowed them anyway. You hear that a man can be pulled from a streetcar and beaten for the color of his skin. You hear that a house can burn with a family still inside. You hear that safety is a story white people tell themselves while black families pack their belongings in the dark. You are a child, but you understand something adults often try to hide. The world can turn on you without warning. You learn to stay ready. You learn to know the exits. You learn to read the faces of white people for the moment before the mask slips. You learn that laughter can be a shield, that movement can distract, that charm can buy one more hour of safety. You begin to treat performance as survival. That by the time you are a teenager, you are already doing domestic work in white homes. You scrub floors. You wash dishes. You mind babies who look at you with the same blankness their parents do. One woman tells you not to touch her china. Another tells you not to look her husband in the eye. You smile and nod. Inside, you are building a door no one can see. You marry young. Her name becomes yours, and you carry it into a life no one predicted. Josephine Baker. The marriage is brief, but the name stays. You are still a girl, but you understand something now. A name can be chosen. A life can be rearranged. You leave St. Louis. You join a traveling show. The work is not glamorous. You sleep in boarding houses that smell of dust and old cigarettes. You eat when you can. You rehearse until your feet bleed through your stockings. Sometimes the audience ignores you. Sometimes the theater manager withholds pay. Sometimes the other girls look at you like you have no right to be there. You are told your skin is too dark for certain chorus lines. You are told your nose is too broad, your lips too full, your body too much. In America, your body is a problem to be solved. You keep dancing. You learn to cross your eyes at the end of a number so the crowd laughs instead of flinching. You learn that comedy can slip past the wall of disgust. You learn that if you make them laugh first, they might let you stay on stage long enough to show them something true. But you also learn that laughter can be a cage. They want you to be funny, not serious, entertaining, not ambitious, visible, but only on their terms. You refuse, quietly at first. You arrive early. You stay late. You watch every performer, steal every trick, and sharpen your timing until it cuts. You are not waiting for permission. You are collecting power. New York is the next risk. You go because the road is a dead end, and because staying still feels like drowning. Harlem is electric. In 1925, there are jazz clubs, rent parties, poets on corners, women in shimmering dresses, men arguing about art and revolution. You are part of a wave of black performers remaking American entertainment. But even in Harlem, the stage lights can feel like a spotlight on your skin. The white audiences come uptown to be thrilled by your blackness, to applaud your rhythm, to leave before the last note if they please. You are never fully sure whether they are seeing you or the fantasy they have brought with them. Then comes Paris. You board the ship with La Revue Niger, uncertain what France will make of you. You are 19 years old. You have been poor, hungry, frightened, underestimated, and briefly married. You have spent your entire life learning to be watched without being understood. Paris does not greet you. Paris consumes you. The city is smoky, glittering, and reckless after the First World War. Painters argue in cafes. Poets chase dancers down narrow streets. Jazz pours from doorways like steam. And to your astonishment, Paris wants you, not in spite of your skin, not as a joke, not as a warning. Paris wants you. The theater at the Champs-Élysées is packed on opening night. You are nearly naked except for a belt of bananas and a smile bright enough to blind the first row. The crowd does not laugh at you. The crowd loses its breath. Your body moves in ways they have never seen. You bend. You leap. You shake. You grin like a child who has already won. You become famous before the final curtain falls. The next morning, your face is in every newspaper. Artists want to paint you. Designers want to dress you. Men want to possess you. Paris names you the Black Venus, the Creole Goddess, the Jazz Cleopatra. You understand exactly what is happening. They are not seeing a girl from St. Louis. They are seeing a fantasy wrapped in your skin. You know the difference between admiration and freedom. You decide to use their fantasy to build a life. You learn French. You study the city. You negotiate your contracts. You charge more. You demand better billing. You buy an apartment and fill it with animals. You walk a leopard down the Champs-Élysées, not because you are foolish, but because you understand that fame is a language. The leopard is named Chiquita. She wears a diamond collar. People follow you for blocks. You become one of the most photographed women in Europe. You sing. You act in films. You open a nightclub. You become a businesswoman, a brand, a force. But every night, backstage, you sit alone for a few minutes and breathe. The woman in the mirror is covered in sweat and applause. The girl from St. Louis is still inside her, watching the exits. When you return to the United States in the 1930s, the dream cracks. You are a star in Paris, I in America. You are denied a hotel room. The same body that receives ovations in Europe is told to use the service entrance in New York. The same name printed in gold letters abroad is spoken with contempt at home. You look at the American stage and see the old limits waiting like a locked gate. You return to France with grief in your throat and resolve in your chest. France is not perfect. You know this. But France has given you AKEY.IT has allowed you to become something other than a cautionary tale. That in 1937, you become a French citizen. You do not do this lightly. You do it with the understanding that belonging is sometimes a choice before it is a feeling. You choose France. France chooses you. Then war comes. The news is not sudden. It arrives like a shadow that stretches over every conversation. Nazi Germany is moving. The world is holding its breath. You are famous now, wealthy, protected by your celebrity. When the occupation begins, you understand that you have options. You could leave. You could perform for whoever pays. You could keep your head down and wait for history to pass. You choose something else. Your fame becomes a door. Diplomats invite you to their parties. Officers want to be photographed with you. Officials accept your charm because your name opens rooms. You begin to listen. You attend parties in the occupied zone and remember every loose word. You repeat them to the right people. You carry messages written on music sheets. You hide notes in your clothes. Customs officers wave you through because you are Josephine Baker, the dancer, the celebrity, the woman with a leopard. They do not know that your tour trunk contains intelligence. You smile and tell jokes. You flirt with men whose names you already plan to forget. You are terrified. The fear never leaves you. It sits in your stomach while you perform. It crawls up your spine when the Gestapo watches you from the back of the room. But you keep moving. You perform for French troops in North Africa. You sing for soldiers who are exhausted and afraid. Your voice becomes a reminder of the country they are fighting to reclaim. You are weak sometimes. You catch infections. You are hospitalized. You lose weight. Your body, which has always been your instrument, begins to fail under the pressure. Still, you continue. You never fire a gun. You never lead a raid. But you carry truth across borders in your dress. You remember names and routes and schedules. You turn your celebrity into a weapon. The stage lights become camouflage. After the war, France remembers. You are awarded the Croix de Guerre. You are given the Legion of Honor. You stand in uniform, medals on your chest, and you understand that this recognition is not just for the dancer. It is for the girl who learned that the world can burn and still chose to walk into the flames. But the applause does not erase the dead. The medals do not restore the cities. You carry the war inside you, quietly, like a note pinned to your ribs. You are 40, then 50. The body that once moved with such freedom has begun to ache. But inside you, the hunger for family grows louder. You buy Chateau de Milans in the Dordogne. It is a castle with towers and stone walls and fields stretching toward the horizon. You open it to the world. Tourists come to see Josephine Baker, the star, and you begin to build something else, a family. You adopt children from different countries, different races, different religions. You call them your rainbow tribe. You believe that if children can grow up together, loved without hierarchy, the world might learn to do the same. It is a dream born from generosity and from the memory of a childhood without security. You want to give them what you never had, a home with room for every identity. You want to prove that race is not a wall, that nation is not a boundary, that family is a choice. The dream is beautiful. It is also expensive. There are schools, clothes, staff, repairs, animals, and the endless cost of keeping a castle alive. You tour to pay for it. You perform even when your joints hurt. You smile even when your heart is heavy. The pressure builds. The money runs low. The children grow and ask questions you cannot always answer. Some of them will later say the dream was more complicated than it looked from outside. You are not a perfect mother. You are a woman trying to build a world with her own hands. The castle slips away. Debt closes in. The bank moves. You lose less Milans. You stand outside the gates of the home you built, and you understand loss in a new way. Loss is not just poverty. It is not just death. It is watching a dream close its doors while you are still alive. You are helped by people who still believe in you. Princess Grace of Monaco offers you a place. You accept. You are older now. Your hair is graying. Your body remembers every fall, every tour, every war. But the world has not finished asking questions of you. In the 1950s and 1960s, you returned to the United States. You refused to perform for segregated audiences. You are Josephine Baker. You have crossed borders with secrets in your dress. You will not bow to a white man at a box office. Your refusal makes headlines. Some venues back down. Some don't. You do not perform where the audience is divided by race. You speak in churches, in ballrooms, on radio. You tell the story of your life, but you tell it backward, so that the little girl from St. Louis is always present. You say, I have walked into rooms where I was not wanted, and I have been denied hotel rooms after being celebrated in palaces. I have known what it means to be seen and not seen in the same moment. The movement listens. In 1963, you stand at the March on Washington. You wear your French military uniform. Your medals are pinned over your heart. You stand beside the leaders of the civil rights movement, and you are not there as a dancer. You are there as a witness, a citizen, a woman who has already faced the worst of the world and refused to be silent. When you speak, your voice is steady. You tell the crowd that you have walked into kings' palaces and workers' kitchens, and that the struggle is the same. You tell them that the children of the world deserve better than the hatred that built the old order. You are no longer young. Your body is tired. But the girl who once danced to be seen has become a woman who speaks so that others cannot be ignored. You are admired for what you did in Paris. You are honored for what you did in the war. But your proudest battle may be the one you fight simply by standing before America and refusing to disappear. The years pass. The losses accumulate. Friends die. Lovers leave. The world changes its music, its dances, its heroes. You return to the stage again. It is not the same stage. Your body is heavier. Your leaps are lower. Your smile is slower. But the audience still rises. They rise for the memory of you. They rise for the girl in the banana skirt. They rise for the woman in uniform. They rise for the mother who tried to raise a rainbow inside a castle. You give them everything you have left. In April 1975, you perform in Paris. The show is a comeback, a farewell, a resurrection. The city that discovered you more than 50 years earlier packs the theater again. You stand in the lights, older and unbreakable. For a few hours, you are not a symbol. You are not a hero. You are a woman doing the only thing she has ever trusted, moving in front of strangers and telling them, without words, that life is worth surviving. Days later, you are gone. They find you in your bed. The world mourns. They say many things about you after your death. They say you were a dancer, a spy, a mother, a fighter. But you were also something simpler. You were a girl who learned that the world could be cruel before she was old enough to understand why. And you decided, again and again, not to let that cruelty be the final word. You walked out of St. Louis with nothing but your body and your will. You crossed an ocean. You conquered a city. You served a cause greater than your own comfort. You built a family with your own hands and lost it, then found the strength to keep going. You returned to the country that had rejected you and demanded that it become better. You never stopped being afraid. You never let the fear win. Now the lights are dim. The theater is empty. The little girl in St. Louis is still moving, still watching the exits, still hoping for a world where no one has to dance for safety. And you are still here, in every step that refuses to be erased. Congratulations. You have lived Josephine Baker's life.